Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and it is the last one of the day. It's been a long day today, but we are here at the end, so I will ask for the last time today that you do check you're still subscribed with the YouTube shadiness of unsubscribing people against their wishes. And also, if you are yet to subscribe, especially if you're one of the regular viewers who's yet to subscribe, please do so. It really massively helps the channel, and we want to push on and grow because we need people to hear the truth and see what is going on around them. And I can only do that with you good people helping me by growing the channel. So do please hit that button. Anyway, as the last one, I thought we'll have a little light look, something pleasant to go into the evening. Because while the cat's away, the mice, of course, will play. And with Humza busy in Qatar with Hamas, you've got everyone moaning about what's going on in Scotland and whatever. But now Rishi Sunak himself has got in on the act, and even he is having a little go. He's mocking the SNP's policies on education and on high taxes. And people are asking him to do something, to do a major reversal that would drive the SNP bonkers if he did it. So it might well be worth doing it just for a laugh. And that is to remove taxing and spending powers from the SNP. I think that would be remarkable. But we'll take a look to see how Rishi is just generally having a bit of a laugh at the SNP's expense. Here goes. Right, so Rishi was on GB News. You can probably see that from the picture, in fact. But Rishi was on GB News, and he had this audience there in front of him, and he was he gave his little speech, gave his little bit of politicking that, and then he did a sort of a Q&A with the people in the room. And they were having quite a good conversation with him. But then one person asked him particularly a point, but we'll address that when we get into the piece. So Rishi Sunak mocks SNP education and high taxes as he faces a demand to remove taxation and spending powers from Scotland. He is asked, please God, take the powers away from these people. What they're doing is so ultimately damaging. You know, please save us. Rishi, save us. And when you've got these people begging a Conservative government to save them from the SNP, you know the SNP have lost the dressing room. The Prime Minister attacked the Scottish Government and Humza Yousaf in particular for high tax policies, as he was urged by one Scottish voter to remove taxation and spending powers from the SNP executive. And I think there's an awful lot of people in Scotland who would think that would be a very good idea at the moment. Just simply to even the playing field and also to stop ultimately the damage that this one extremist party are doing. Humza Yousaf and the SNP were blasted by Rishi Sunak as he was grilled by a GB News audience, and he made pleas to vote for his party at the general election. He also faced calls to remove spending and taxation powers from the Scottish Government. And that, of course, would ultimately destroy the SNP. They would have no reason to be. If they weren't the ones that were taxing and spending, they'd have no control over where the money went. Improvements would be made because nothing would be spent on independence and everything would be spent elsewhere where it's needed. And people would ultimately see the damage caused by the SNP onto these services, as the services would rapidly improve. And that, of course, would be the end of the party. Woohoo, everyone's a winner, baby. In a bid to arrest the Tories slide in the polls, the PM took part in an hour-long question time on the digital channel, where he managed to put across high tax Scotland and compared it to his policies in England. Now, of course, high tax Scotland is about to get even worse, because if Hunt, as expected, drops the rate in England, then the income tax rate differential between the two will be horrendous, especially at the higher levels. And that will cause even more people to question whether being in Scotland is actually worth it. And for a lot of them, no, it won't. And it will also increase the recruitment problem. But again, this isn't Westminster's fault. This is down to the SNP. They are the ones that keep taxing. Anyway, the First Minister has been mocked as high tax Humza after hiking up rates for millions of Scots, and with more rises to come. This was brought up by Glasgow resident John Hobbit, who compared the high tax rates in Scotland and inferior services compared to England's education and healthcare. And he asked the PM how he planned to increase the Conservative vote share north of the border. This is obviously someone who I would suggest generally would vote Conservative perhaps. But somebody's got to do something and stop the SNP. Well, actually, the only people who can, of course, are the voters of Scotland. And a little bit of tactical voting may well be needed. And I've already seen in comments over the past sort of few days and weeks that there are people out there prepared to hold their nose and vote against their first choice, simply to get the SNP out, regardless of who's going in. Mr. Sunak said that Mr. Hobbit had good reason not to be happy. Well, of course, tax, he said, between the two countries, the differential on that, it's just too big. He pointed out that anyone earning more than $29,000 pays higher taxes because of the budget that the SNP government just put in place recently. And as I say, with the budget coming in March for England, it'll be even worse. He disputed the nationalist claim that this is just for high earners. Well, no, it's for anyone over 29,000, 28,800, I think the figure is. So not just high earners, sort of office juniors. And he claimed that the reason for these higher taxes is because the Tories are starting to cut taxes now, as he highlighted the national insurance cut announced in the autumn budget. The Prime Minister added, hard work should be rewarded. And that's the country I want to build, right? He says, you guys work so hard. Everyone who works hard, their hard work must be rewarded. And that means I want to cut your taxes and let you keep more of your hard-earned money. This is the thing. If you are a high earner and your day, is one where you earn a lot of money. Let's say, for example, if you earn £1,000 in the day, and there are people out there who do that, obviously. So you earn £1,000 a day. But if you have to hand 700 of that £1,000 over to the government, kind of removes your bother. Shall I do a bit of extra time, a bit of overtime? Shall I earn a bit more? No, I can't be. I'm all right at the moment. And so it cuts growth. It cuts productivity. When the government is taking so much of your money that you lose the impetus to work, then you've got an economy in free fall. And that's what's happening. National insurance was cut from 12% to 10% from January, meaning people earning $35,000 can save £450 this year, which, to be honest, is a good blast off your winter fuel bill, really, isn't it? He then pointed out that his government gave out business relief of 75% to support their high streets, which was not replicated in either of the SNP Scotland's or Labour's Wales. Indeed, both of them had the money given to them and had the option of handing that relief over to the businesses, and they both decided not to. And so all the businesses in Scotland say, hang on a minute, how come the business rates in England is only 25%? They get 75% knocked back, but we don't get anything. Ask yourselves that. If you're a business owner in Scotland, I hope that there should be no business owners in Scotland voting for the SNP, because the SNP are actively working to destroy your business. On education, he highlighted that England's school figures were outperforming Scotland and Wales due to their reforms. Not outstanding Northern Ireland, you understand, but Northern Ireland has something that you don't have anywhere else, and that's called grammar schools. And if there's anything designed to give a child an education, it is a grammar school, and Ireland kept them. Under the nationalists, Scottish pupils were pulled out of international league tables, the reason being the schools got so bad and the results got so embarrassing that they stopped putting them forward to the league tables because they didn't want people to know how awful schools in Scotland are. And indeed, when the PISA results are shown and you look at the various things, there's some third world countries outperforming Scotland on education, supposedly a modern, Western, democratic country, and it's outperformed by third world countries. SNP done that. Glasgow resident Mr Hobbits was questioned by GB News after the show and urged Mr Sunak to focus on taxation and services in Scotland. The aircraft engineer said, we are paying the highest tax for the least amount of services. My counterparts who work in the same company in England are on much more money than me. He said, I've got to address these facts and make the Scottish system fairer. Or you could just move. You could move to England. He highlighted the problem of Scotland being far too far devolved. He said, the SNP, I think we need to look at taking some of the taxation powers and spending powers away. At the moment, we're throwing money all over the world. Yet 6 ambulances are outside the hospital waiting to triage people. It's unacceptable. Humza Yousaf is giving money all across the world to Muslim countries. Meanwhile, people in Scotland are dying in a waiting room. But of course, Humza Yousaf has got different priorities from proper Scots. He said the SNP's handling is a disaster. They keep on taking money out of pockets and it seems to go nowhere but to the unemployed. The people that are working like myself, I have a business, he says, I own a company. I also work full time, and both are suffering right now because they keep taking money out of my pockets to pay for the people who don't want to do anything or can't do anything. He said it's not fair, and he's right, and it will ultimately be the end of the economy because Mr. Hobbits there can just get up and go and move to England. I'm surprised he hasn't already, or at least move his company to England. That's possible. Pay less tax, no problem at all. Anyway, I shall round off there and I shall come up. I think he has a point. I think they've gone too far. I think they've overly devolved because they've tried to accommodate the SNP. But the SNP have abused it, massively abused it. They've been given too much power, too much say, too much swing. And no money should ever be given abroad by the SNP government or by any devolved government. If they've got money to give away to other countries, then whatever they give must be removed from the following year's budget. He said, well, you've obviously got too much. You had too much last year. You had so much money you could give it away. We've cut your budget by that amount. And let's see how it happens then. They'll cry, they'll moan, they'll bitch, but hey, they're the ones doing it. They're the ones spending your money on Johnny Foreigner, who hasn't contributed a brass farthing to the Scottish economy. But you only have to look at who is the First Minister to see why it's so important that all those particular countries receive so much of your money. Anyway, I shall leave that there. Thank you very much. Wednesday's done. There might be a flash video, but that's it for the big ones. So until tomorrow, stay safe, stay well. Please hit the subscribe button. Definitely like this video. Please share it, and I will speak to you later. Bye.